to the US with Peter Mathews, Professor of Political Science at Cyprus College. Over 700 pages, Professor? What has he got to hide?
A lot of material in there could actually be very revealing. And of course, the Congress wants to get a hold of that so they can find out where the president was during those hours, those precarious hours of the actual insurrection. Who was he speaking to? Who spoke to him? What was said? There were many, many things that are of great concern because we want to know what kind of involvement he might have had or who else might have had, including Steve Bannon. That's very important. That's why the Congress wants those documents.
I would have thought that most people think if he doesn't want you to see them, there's more interest in seeing them.
It certainly seems that way, doesn't it? If someone tries to keep something from the public or the Congress, then you suspect there's something that should be hidden from his perspective. And I think this is very telling. And I do believe that the documents will be released, at least some of them. Congress will be able to get them eventually. The question, will it be soon enough?
Yep. OK, let's get to the current president, Joe Biden. And, of course, he's on a real international zone the next month. Of course, G20 in Rome, then off to Glasgow.
Yes, indeed. And the big one is the Glasgow summit, this COP26, which is the latest of the climate summits that is very critical and crucial now because the Paris Accord in 2015 had certain targets. The targets are not being met as well as they should be. For example, that in Paris, the scientists told us, and the countries agreed to try to limit the greenhouse gases to just about 1.5%, at the most 2% Celsius. We should keep it at 1.5%. And now we're on the trajectory to go on toward 2.7% unless greenhouse gas emissions are cut by 55%, which means a renewed commitment from all 200 countries or so that will be there to really cut back on dirty electricity, to bring about renewable energy cars, electric cars, for example, and to do other kinds of things that would really help the environment and to stop cutting down as many trees, reforestation. Those things are all important. And how these countries will respond this time around will really probably make or break it as to whether or not we can survive this terrible catastrophe that's awaiting us if we don't do something about it.
This is Joe Biden's strong suit too, isn't it, Professor? Basically, this negotiating around tables. He's not very strong when it comes to microphones and audiences, but this one-on-one stuff, and he seems to be on a bit of a charm offensive.
Yes, indeed, but he also had some setbacks at home. For example, the Build Back Better plan, which would have brought in a lot of environmental corrections, was not passed yet by the House and Senate together, and he didn't get to sign it before he left. He wanted to sign that before he left, but still, he's on his way. I mean, maybe up close to $2 trillion of it will be passed soon, and he is good at negotiating with other world leaders, and he knows the critical condition that the whole world is in right now, and unless we get these greenhouse gases down and under control, and a lot of it that is in his plan, actually, to be able to get the United States to bring in subsidies for electric cars, for example, bring in renewable energy, and subsidize a clean electric grid. That's the big one. We can move to clean electricity, which actually that part's going to maybe drop from the plan, unfortunately. Then we could have completely reduced the burning of fossil fuel coal and natural gas and instead go to electric and clean. And it would penalize the various companies, the electric utility companies, if they did not do that. That part of the plan is being in question right now, unfortunately. But Biden is still at it. He's going to go at it internationally. If he comes back home, he's going to go at it domestically to get this plan through as much of it as he can to help the environment.
Part of the problem, though, internationally is where India and China are at with this. I know you've got to start somewhere, but everyone needs to be on board, don't they?
Absolutely. I mean, China is the largest single polluter. The U.S. is right up there, right next to it, actually, in polluting. And don't forget, the U.S. has been polluting and putting out greenhouse gases for many, many, many more years than India or China, because those countries are more late arrivals to industrialization. Still, India and China are the two world's largest populated countries, and they have to get a handle on this and join the rest of the world. And the U.S. should be helping with global South countries, and so should other global North countries like the U.S., Britain, Canada, Australia. All those countries should be helping the global South to make the transition, because many of the global South countries don't have the resources or technology to go as fast as we can up here. We need to get this together on a global level. This is not a national or a regional level solution at all. This has to be done globally.
US COVID, the numbers are dropping, and also the talk of vaccination for younger children. It seems to be a little rosier than what it was a few weeks ago.
Yes, definitely. Even the numbers are reflecting that. Unfortunately, people are still dying. Between 1,000 and 2,000 Americans a day are dying. That's still a huge number, but it's much lower than the over 2,000 that were dying just a month ago. And the children are going to get vaccinated soon because the FDA has approved the vaccine for under 12 years old, and now it comes to the CDC to finally approve it next week. And I think my daughter, who's 9 years old, might be getting her vaccine really soon. I called to make an appointment with her doctor, and we're looking good. So perhaps next week at the end of it, many parents are concerned to get their kids vaccinated, but only 27% are certain to get them vaccinated right away. That's another problem here. We have vaccine hesitancy that no other country in the world has as much as we do, and that needs to be overcome so we can get this herd immunity, which we all need, and the kids should be protected in schools. So I'm looking forward to it, to going forward with this.
Yeah, and I don't think we'll be far away. My oldest two are both vaccinated because they're in the, and the youngest one is waiting similarly, same age as your daughter. Yes, exactly. Now, what about the latest with Facebook continuing to cause a stir?
It's just amazing. I think Mark Zuckerberg is trying to direct attention away from what all these investigations, what happened in the year 2021. It was one of the worst years for Facebook as far as PR goes. And he's now trying to come up with something called a meta-universe, the metaverse, which is quite remarkable that he says people are no longer content just to be seeing various posts and sharing with those. They want to be inside the post themselves. So he's creating some kind of a virtual reality, which maybe hologram type figures around in which you'll be living a fantasy. I'm not sure if it'll catch on or not, but it's a big move in that direction, and we'll see how people react to it. People are still a little bit confused about it, and some are looking forward to it. I'm not even sure what that's all about, other than maybe distracting people from the real issues of the day. We should be focusing on the real world, and what's going on right now. That's challenging enough to be able to be lost in some metaverse.
One thing about him and the business of Facebook, they do know how to get headlines.
That's for sure. Yes, Mark Zuckerberg is a master at public relations and getting headlines one way or the other, and is still one of the largest companies in the world. I mean, billions of people use it, and we communicate on it too. It includes good, important issues that we talk about as well. But they have to get their act together and really make sure there are no, somehow or the other, we've got to stop misinformation and disinformation from being put out on Facebook, because that's hurting the society and the world overall, with COVID, but also with other kinds of things, other kinds of security issues and things.
Yeah, there is some garbage that blurts out on social media right across the board, little question. And that's something that really needs to be looked at globally. Look, good to talk to you as always, Professor.
Always, Tim. Look forward to seeing you again.
Absolutely. Pope Francis has accepted an invitation from Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi to make the first papal visit to India since 1999. Prime Minister Modi says